push all my buttons here. Come on. All right, that's going. This is going. Okay, I believe I am ready, Beth.
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Public comments? Want to make any public comments? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the December 8th board meeting agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen, second by
Second.
Commissioner Schiefelbein. And discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, Andrew.
Today's consent agenda, we have approval of the November 15th board meeting minutes, approval of the social services, county, and hospital accounts payable, approval of the promotion of part-time crime victim advocate assistant Brianna Meyer to full-time crime victim witness coordinator at B23 Step 2, $22.87 an hour, the effective date to be determined. Approval of the hire of a heavy equipment operator Josh Webb at B22 Step 3, $22.22 an hour, effective December 12th. Approval of a step adjustment for corrections officer Colleen Lair to B22 Step 11, $28.13 an hour, effective December 9th. Approval of the hire of part-time corrections officer Wayne Lee at B22 Step 11, $28.13 an hour, effective December 9th. Approval of the hire of part-time corrections officer Chris Guggenhaus, B22 Step 2, $21.55 an hour, effective December 9th. Approval of law enforcement contracts for Dassel, Watkins, and Cosmos for 2023 and 2024. Approval of certificates of classification for forfeit land for parcels 2501280000 and 27117700 as non-conservation. Approval of the 2023 medical consultant contract between Public Health and Dr. Whitney Reeds. And that is the consent agenda.
Questions?
I have one on the payables. Is Barb over there? Or Andrew, the medical examiner, there's a bill in there for medical examiner for $5,000, and I was just wondering, is that part of a we contract?
That looked like a special case one.
Okay.
You better have Andrew look into that for you.
Okay, thank you. It stood out.
Special case, I saw that one.
Yeah, it stood out to me, and so.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
The Wold, what was that one about?
The,
About 54,000?
that's the continued design.
Okay. Nothing out of the ordinary or anything?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Hold on. There's no resolutions in here, is there?
No.
There is one further down.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public hearing proposed 2023 fee schedule. Oh, wait. Am I right here?
Let's see, did I?
No.
I move ahead. Hold on here.
Greg's
Greg, we can't skip Greg. That's a whole bunch of stuff. Greg. Sorry, Greg.
There's Greg.
My computer moved. Danny moved it.
Good play.
Hey, trying to help everybody out. I do what I can.
You're the guy. All right.
Morning, Greg Schultz, Land Use Director. This morning I got 6 items for the boards. Recommendations. First thing is the Happle CUP on Lake Washington. It's a project that they want to do is they want to build visually. They want to place existing walls and boulder walls, replacing deck and impervious pavers, replacing steps. There's going to be some additional walls and landscaping added that will be located up by the house. Approximate the materials for this project will be about 100 cubic yards. Pretty straightforward. Landscaping project, the board, planning commission approved it, their meeting, with a 5-0 vote. Of course, also Les Lawfer, not present at the meeting, so the recommendation.
Questions?
Madam Chair, move to approve an application for a conditional use permit to move more than 10 cubic yards of material within the shore impact zone and 50 cubic yards of material in the shoreland district of the General Development Lake, Washington, with conditions.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you.
Next item I have is CUP 16012 for owners Carl and Kristen LaPlante. This is on Lake Washington again. Project is approximately 22 cubic yards riprap, 15 cubic yards of rock, 30 yards of soil, about 111 cubic yards total. The project impervious is way under, it's at only about 12.5% on this. Again, it was passed by the planning commission 5-0 at the meeting. There was
Question.
no issues from any of the neighbors on this one either. So.
Okay. Questions, anyone? Not, I would look for a motion to approve this.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve an application for a conditional use permit to move more than 10 cubic yards of material within the shoreline impact zone and 50 cubic yards of material in the shoreline district of the General Development Lake Washington with the condition.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you.
Next item I have is CUP 16013 for owners Jordan Carlson and Taylor Itzo. This is on Lake Emanuela. This is an after the fact CUP. It's got a lot of attention. A lot of the people in the lake and the township as well. The applicant is requesting a CUP to finish landscaping on the property. Got a 3-foot boulder wall, 4-foot wide, 10-foot or 10-step stairway, 4-foot wide path. Total material brought on the property was approximately 20 cubic yards of class 5, 26 cubic yards of rock, 45 cubic yards of topsoil. In addition to the material, the approximately 50 yards of soils that were disturbed for the project, they disturbed roughly 140, 150 cubic yards of material. Hard to determine. But this is an after the fact. I had gotten out there after all this disturbance was done. Initially, I was out there and he was just chopping up stumps for the project, but later on he went in and we went across the property line was one issue, but that's been restored. They had moved a lot of dirt at one point. That was over elevation. Since that time, I've been out there and Ethan Jensen were out there. He has removed that elevation. That was an issue between the neighboring property to the south and their property. Everything, as you can tell from the notes, there's a lot of interest in this project. A lot of back and forth between neighbors and township and what happened and what didn't happen. What he's done so far has been, he's done very nice work for what he's done so far, just that it's been out of order. As was mentioned, and I think was the other day, the Egerts had given a letter to Paul, kind of expressing their interest in their timeline and how they seen the project had gone. I've been working with these people since September. I've been September, October, November, kind of correcting what they initially had ripped into the project on. You see in that picture to the left, there's a retaining wall there in front of the firewood. That at one time was all dirt up to the top of that retaining wall to hold it in. And that would have been grossly over the neighbor property, the acreage property to the south. Elevation on their property. Since then, they removed it to that's pretty much natural elevation we're seeing on that side right now. So you removed that all back, and brought it back up, and brought it up to the right picture up there and kind of wrapped it around. There was originally an RV path that followed that right picture down to in front of that tree. It was all open, there's no trees there. And they had parked RVs there back in the day. So they just kind of added some more elevation to that. Well, this project is not done completely yet. I have some conditions in there, as you see, if you read the conditions, there's some conditions in there that address that soil that's on the right-hand side of that right picture you're looking at, and that has to be sloped back and to do like a 4-to-1 slope, and it has to be, it's all been seeded, as you see in the picture. You can't see it there now, but that's all been reseeded. And there's some erosion control blankets on the left picture facing towards the lake to kind of control that that's been disturbed. Ethan and I were out there. He's okay with the stabilization that's happening so far. They actually got a double wall stabilization. So they've done a lot of work, tried to control the issues. They're working with the county. Hard to determine what the future will be, but having the conditions that they have to control. That's what you see in the right picture there. Put further rock or slope it back to control that. That could possibly happen to the property to the north. Yeah, this is an ongoing project. I'm not sure what.
Greg was kind of handcuffed on this one because when you get called in after so much soil has been moved and so forth, and now he comes along and he doesn't know where the original point is. A lot of the interest on the lake was drawn because a couple of years ago, when this property was up for sale, they bought it contingent on the approval of a variance. And that variance that they were requesting is entirely different.
It was for building a house.
Yeah, so everybody thought, okay, something's going on here that shouldn't be going on. If this person's variance got denied, why are these folks being allowed to do it? But the two issues were entirely different. That gentleman wanted to build a house past the bluff line, correct?
And he wanted to build a house basically where that rock wall is in the bluff itself.
Yeah.
Tear into the bluff and build a house into the hillside is what that variance was, and that was denied.
Yep.
You can't build in the bluff at all. And technically, you're not supposed to clear cut a bluff either. You can build retaining walls, things like that in the bluff, but you're supposed to keep the understory in place, which hasn't happened in this place. That's what he just went and whacked the whole understory on it, so it causes a big issue that normally wouldn't have been allowed. The steps would have been allowed, the boulder walls would have been allowed, that stuff, but the understory removal, as you're seeing there, a complete blank slate, would not have been allowed except for a small portion for maybe a picnic area or a fire pit or something like that. So since then, he's replanted.
Could we go,
Double erosion, there's more pictures on the next page.
could we go back to a picture where there was a big wooden fence? I think,
Yep.
There, on the far right and on the far left.
Yep, that is the neighboring property, and what you see in the stakes on the left picture, those two stakes is actually the property line.
How
Initially,
close?
he went over the property line
Yeah.
to the
how-
neighbor's fence, because he initially thought that the property line went to the neighbor's fence. And in fact, it's where those two stakes are, there's probably 20 feet of space between the neighboring property and that fence.
Okay.
And he had
Because that
completely
looked a
whacked
little
it.
concerning if I had that fence, even if it was the property line, to pull all the dirt away from your side would disrupt.
That's been replaced, and
Okay.
it's been, the dirt's been replaced back in, it's been reseeded, and there's netting on there now for erosion control, for the seed to take place. And the neighbors to the south, the Egerts actually did that, they beat Carlson to the punch on it. Carlson was gonna do it, but John Eggert had replanted and reseeded that
Okay.
immediately after he figured it was over the line.
Some of these issues are really between neighbors too, they're
Well,
civil issues.
I was gonna say
Okay.
that the variance issue from 2017 has no effect on.
No.
I mean, we can't, that's,
But the perception to those folks out there was different, but.
so what's the recommended action here?
Well, I think Greg has got a recommended condition that he would like to add I think just to make sure that the neighbors, don't get excessive runoff or something to that nature. Do you have the wording on that, or do you want me to read it off the email you sent me?
Why don't you read it out?
He is suggesting that if determined that future erosion or excessive water flow onto neighboring properties is caused by this project, immediate remediation must take place to correct the issue. Okay, so that way we've addressed,
Future problem.
yeah.
If it happens.
Any other questions? If not, I'll look for a motion. And you're gonna include,
Yes,
It'll be number 8 in the condition.
yes, be number 8 on the condition list.
okay,
Make a motion to put that together, Paul.
Gotta read it
You,
now.
you wanna read it, Paul?
Second, find it again.
Pretty much, we can't go back, we can't. So we
See,
gotta,
that's the problem. You know, like I said, when I said Greg was handcuffed. Well, if he could have been there from the beginning,
Right.
none of this probably would have happened, you know? So, and once it's done, it's done. I mean, it's not like we can put it all back and start from square one again.
And the neighbor with that fence where he had encroached upon the neighbor's property has been fairly well resolved?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh,
No, I would not say that either.
sometimes that starts with neighbors and it's just gonna stay that way.
we're gonna leave it there.
yeah.
Exactly.
So I think all I can do is
It'll be
I can just make the recommendation and keep an eye on it. And I told the Carlsons, Mr. Carlson, and so at the meeting that we'll be out there a lot
Right.
this spring to verify that things are happening and things are stable. And so they're well aware that this isn't a done deal after this.
The bank
Conditions.
is like this. Okay, until it gets to the flat. And the same thing for both neighbors, north and south. They have that bank too. So they're concerned that if the water's not properly moving, it's gonna work on their bank too. So I think that particular grievance is legitimate, and I think number 8, by adding condition number 8, we let the neighbors know that, hey, if something comes up, they have to address it,
Sounds good.
so.
Let's
All right.
move.
Madam
Let's
Chair.
move.
Madam Chair, move to approve an application for a conditional use permit to move more than 10 cubic yards of material within the shore impact zone and 50 yards of material in the shoreline district of the recreational development Lake Manuela with the conditions and the addition of the 8th condition
So addressed.
is to be addressed in the permit.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Still right, is it?
Yeah.
All right,
What I have is the CUP 16015 for Wayne and Leland Stifter, Lake Minnabell landscape project. And they wanted to, this project is to basically to improve shoreline by putting riprap along the entire shoreline, adding steps, boulder wall with fire pit, shoreline approximately 22 cubic yards, riprap, 12 cubic yards of rock, 2 cubic yards, 15 cubic yards of soils to be moved for the project. So totally, probably approximately 50 cubic yards will be added or moved. Pervious on this project is gonna be around 24%. So they're right up to get close to the maximum impervious for this project. This is going to be ahead of, will actually be next spring, and they're building a new house and a new septic system is gonna be installed on this property. Actually, they just started that this week. So it's a big project of tearing down an old cabin, putting up a new house, new septic and landscaping project all in one. And the variance for this, for the house, was approved at last week's variance meeting. So,
okay, questions?
This is your lake, Julie.
All right, I will move to approve an application for a conditional use permit to move more than 10 cubic yards of material within the shore impact zone and 50 cubic yards of material in the shoreline district of the general development Lake Minnabell with the conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you.
Last couple items are McNamara CUP for aggregate mining. Rather IUPs, 16017 and 16015. And 16015 is for exterior extraction and mining. The 16017 is for concrete and bituminous recycling on the property. So they go hand in hand. This is a pit that's been in existence since, well before 2010 and 2016. They had CUPs on, and in 2006 they had an EAW on this site done for 80 acres. Currently, they're only occupying about 28 acres of this property, of this site.
That's a fair distance off the road too, isn't it?
It is a fair
You can-
distance off the road.
It's well-maintained, they do a good job, that's over in my area there,
Yep.
so.
He said that they do a good job.
Madam Chair, move to approve the renewal of an interim use permit for aggregate mining, processing, and crushing with all related stockpiling in the southeast quarter of the southwest, oh boy. Township 118, Range 30 of Ellsworth Township with conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Recycling and processing.
Did we approve both? That, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Oh, we did?
Did we?
I didn't think so.
Well, it's listed twice in our agenda.
One's for-
That's why-
One's for the mining and one's for the.
It's two
Okay,
separate,
so
one's
the
recycling.
roll-
Separate IUPs.
Okay, so
Motion for the second IUP.
we need him, that's what I was waiting, I didn't know if he was gonna.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the renewal of the interim use permit for recycling and processing of bioluminescent and concrete rubble with all related stockpiling in the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter. Section 7, Township 118, Range 30 of Ellsworth Township with conditions.
See how that's done?
Yeah.
Motion by Commissioner.
Second, I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
You're here all day.
Yeah,
All in favor?
maybe,
Aye.
maybe not.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Greg. Looks like you've been busy.
Oh,
Do we have to wait till 9 o'clock?
Yep,
or-
we are a couple minutes early, so what I would suggest is let's flip the next two agenda items and have the presentation from
Okay.
myself.
Rochelle Peterson, Pack for Families Collaborative Director, Annual Update.
I have a little handout here for everyone.
Yep, sure will.
Oh, you wanna grab me one? Before I begin, I would like to share that this will be my last presentation to the board, and I brought with me my newly appointed replacement, just so she could, she was free this morning to get a feel, so this is Sarah Vonderhaar. She actually currently works with Pact for Families, and she coordinates a 3-county federal grant right now on Partnership for Success, but it's really working with the drug free coalitions in 3 of our counties. So she's been a great asset, and so we're just so happy that she fill in and come in and step right in. And I always say that learning about the collaborative is almost about a year learning curve. So she's got that already, which is fabulous. So I just wanted to introduce Sarah to the board.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So, in your packet, I just added a couple of things I'll talk about. And we also just have a brochure that we've created actually just in the last year or so, just because there's so many different things happening with the collaborative. But, again, my first sheet is really highlighting a little bit about what's been happening with the collaborative and within Meeker County specifically. So, I kind of summarize here, there's some things in here that are collaborative-wide, but which are a real benefit across the board. But one of them is Talking is Teaching. It's a campaign that all 5 of our counties have just keep utilizing within the county and the 5 counties. And we actually got some national attention based on this project. But essentially, it's a campaign to show that talking to your young children is teaching them. Because more and more, we're talking about smartphones and things like that, and kids are just getting in front of those, and conversations are lacking. So really, the fact that when you're talking to your kids, you're singing to your kids, you're storytelling to your children, they're learning skills. They're learning communication, they're learning words, and those are so important for young families to be utilizing. One other thing across the 5 counties was a regional foster respite care recruitment. We know right now that we are lacking foster families and respite care families in our counties. So all 5 of our counties, and actually Swift County actually got involved. So we, as a collaborative, put in $5,000, and then Swift County put in some money to do just a year-long radio ad campaign, just talking about, hey, if you ever felt compelled to help young children in your community, maybe you want to become a foster parent, and then contact your local social service agency. So that was across the board, actually 6-county effort, because Swift just said, yeah, we'd like a part, and by pooling all those funds, we were able to do month ads all through a 12-month process. So we just got done with those this summer. 5-county public health, and often Diana's in here as well, but the counties will rotate and do a reflective supervision project with the supervisors from public health agencies, and I know that's always positive to get those folks together and work together and connect together and do just professional development on a monthly basis. So reflective supervision is just something that really is considered a very positive and evidence-based way to just really support people in those positions. So lots of positive things with collecting all 5 counties together. And then I wanted to highlight the Meeker Area Partners in Prevention. And this is one thing I think that was really helpful, and I know Brandy's not here today, but trying to get the MAP group going again, and we've been able to hopefully help them get a little traction and do some things, but we were able to give a couple $1,000s for that scavenger hunt and paying for the bingo cards that went out throughout Meeker County, and actually I had utilized Sarah because Sarah has been so wonderful on creating a lot of social media campaigns and little yard signs that we've been able to do and design them, and so I had been part of a couple of those meetings and saying, even though each county can have their own coalition, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And Sarah, I had brought actually some of Sarah's designs and, you know, the PDFs, and use these as you please. And you can use them because with the 3 counties, they're the same, but then we changed the county, and you can even jump in and talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's just our prevention message. We like to focus on the positive within our county, so our messages, the summer message was have a happy and safe and sober summer. Most youth in Candy-Ojai County choose not to drink when hanging out with friends. So messages like that, and we have vaping messages that we use, and the Drug-Free Communities Coalitions really like to focus on that positive and just getting that message out so that kids know that they have a choice to make when it comes to using substances. So it's been very effective.
And I think that's the thing with the positive community norms is we hear a lot about this many kids are vaping or this many kids are using, but in reality, across the board, most kids aren't. And if we hear that and we have some things going into the school bathrooms and with all the schools and just posters. So again, as part of the collaborative, we can just put, Meeker County or Candioi County, and then we get the statistics for those schools or for those counties, and we make it our own. But again, the benefit of just coordinating and collaborating. So we had started with that, and I know Brandy at one of the meetings we just talked about that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can partner. So even though you're not technically part of that 3-county federal grant, there's benefits to be had. So Lake Ripperly Elementary Mindful Movement. I've talked about this a couple times, but this is just a great project that they're doing with the elementary school here in Litchfield. But we just supplied some more supplies where we have the social worker coming in with, she's an ECFE coordinator teacher, but she also is a yoga instructor, and they do group sessions. The social worker said, I don't have time to meet one-on-one with all of the kids that need that one-on-one time, but she'll bring the kindergartners all together, and then she'll bring the first graders all together. And they do these group activities, and it's skill building, it's emotional, social emotional learning that goes on, building relationships, and it's just been something that the school has said just has been amazing. And for the most part now, the school has taken that on as a line item because they've seen the benefit, which is, again, one of the things that we like to do is give some seed money, try something to see if it works. And most recently, we just gave them some more money just to buy some newer supplies. So I'm talking about that social emotional piece again. Eden Valley Watkins School District just gave $15,000 for them to plan Calm Corners reflection rooms in their elementary, the junior high, middle school area, and the high school. And they all look a little bit different, but they've been planning on how to get resources and have an actually designated room that kids can be in, that they don't have to leave school or go down to the principal's office and just sit in the office, but actually have a space where they can do that. So that's just for that planning, some of the training for the staff, and really have a resource room reflection for those kids. So excited to see how they do that. So really they're in that planning stage. They're going to be working on that and then getting all the staff trained and all the supplies purchased and ready to go in September. So I did bring a calendar. I don't know if anybody got a chance to see these, but this was a project we were really excited about. Actually, Renville County and Candioi County have an ACEs awareness project, but the one nice thing that we got to do is Pat put in some money, but then Renville County also put in some money to do this project. But all of our partner schools within our 5 counties, 6th grade and under, got one of these to take home, and I'll just pass this around. But we've really talked about ACEs and trauma and how that affects families. But this was a real positive messaging campaign, but it also talked about all the resources within our 5 counties. It gave talking questions for parents to open up and have conversations about safety and resiliency. So again, another example of really partnering and how we can bring resources together. So, and actually we partnered here with Ramsey Printing in town here. They printed those and helped us with artwork. They did a fabulous job. And then we partnered with our schools. We got them to all our schools. They got them into the classrooms, into the backpacks of all the kids, and got them sent home. So just a really nice partnership. So between a couple counties, but then 5 counties. So. And May is Mental Health Month. So the thing I was talking about is our LAC. So our local advisory Children's Mental Health Board, we sponsored radio ads in May and June last year surrounding May is Mental Health Month. and reducing stigma and reaching out. We started with COVID 2 years ago, just really talking about COVID messaging, but really just talking about supporting your friends and neighbors. Mental health is, we all have mental health, and we're all, the last couple years has been a stretch. So really just positive messaging. And so the other part that I handed out was with really a cheap way, but an effective way that we shared these positive messaging and question starters and things. We emailed these things out. We had them in different places and communities. We even had some businesses that were willing to put them in grocery bags and on pizza boxes and things just to really get them out. And our local advisory actually this year is really talking about doing a winter campaign, sending out so not just May is Mental Health Month. We know there's awareness around May, but that winter and holidays can also be tough. So actually the LAC is taking on this year to really do a year-long or maybe quarterly campaign. So right now there's going to be winter bingo things that are going to be sent out to the schools and go home in backpacks so families can do fun things over the winter, and then they will be eligible for a prize if they do their bingo card and send them back in. But just looking for new ways to enjoy winter. It can be hard for some. I'm one of those included. I'm always finding ways that I can enjoy winter versus avoid it. So yeah, trying to just do things before it gets to May. They're still going to work on May, his Mental Health Month, but so. And connecting families, I just want to highlight that too, because we have so many grant funds, and one of our big missions is that we know that there's families that are struggling often need more connections. They rely a lot on services. They rely a lot on case managers and people that are helping them professionally, but oftentimes they lack a lot of resources and connections with their own community, informal connections. And if any of you have ever had a struggle, whatever that might be, we often rely on our friends and families. Which doctor did you go to? I really, tell me someone you really liked, or if you needed to go see a counselor, which counselor did you go to? Which attorney do you like to go to? Tell me, and we trust our people and our peers that are close to us, and we're really trying to build those connections for folks and having our support groups where we bring in resources, education, so people can get knowledge and support. But then they also are exchanging phone numbers, and they're also supporting one another and saying, I'll go with you to that meeting. I can be that extra set of ears for you. And so I've always said, I don't think we can't just keep hiring enough people. We will never have enough probably staff to do these things. But if we can build kind of on that bottom ground level of building healthy communities, then I think we're a step in the right direction. So our Connecting Families program really has been a way to support that. And I highlighted the theater there. We've had some United Way grants that have started sensory-friendly movies, and you might ask what that is. It's a time when the State Theater in Hutchinson, they open up a theater just for this group of folks. Maybe the lights aren't down as dark, the sound isn't quite as loud, and we have all these families here that bring their kids that maybe don't necessarily sit still in the theater, and maybe there's a little bit of talking, but everybody is there for the same purpose, and the feedback we get is, this is fabulous. It has been so long since as a family we've been able to do something without having to leave or not finish, what we had come to do, and those people are getting connected. And the State Theater is loving it, and they're actually starting to do it now on their own. So we had this grant, we were able to kind of jumpstart it, but now we see the benefit and a win-win situation. So training, I just want to talk about just different grants we can partner with, but we've been able to do a lot of training for it's called TBRI, but it has been a wonderful asset. We've had a lot of the therapists regionally that have been trained, parents, grandparents, foster parents, and just really really hands-on just ways to deal with kids that maybe have come from trauma. Because it's not necessarily the easiest thing, or it's maybe not parenting in the way that we were parented or are parenting ourselves. So we've really been able to do that in the last couple of years, bring a lot of different trainings. And then on the backside, I just want to highlight some grants that support families and youth throughout our community. And so again, we had a family permanency grant we still have, where we have 2 kinship foster liaisons, and those are folks that have actually had their own personal experience in adoption or fostering, and they support one-on-one groups. We've also had family activities, which again, bringing those folks together. We've had some things here in Litchfield over the summer where we bring families together and they go to the splash pad and they hang out. But again, connecting those people that are doing foster care have a different road than other folks. And so getting those folks together, exchanging phone numbers, get connected. And even the kiddos that are actually in foster care, they have a different experience. And so getting together kids that have like experiences like them, it can be very supportive. So Journey to Independence, and this is one that I just want to highlight too. This is, ever since I came on 6.5 years ago, this was a priority with all of our counties to talk about that transition age youth, that age out of mental health systems. And so we have a grant right now where we have 3 staff that work one-on-one with those kids, and actually have quite a few referrals from Meeker County. So working with kids that maybe are 17, some of them are in foster care, some of them are not, but some of them are adopted, and they're going to be out of high school and they don't have a lot of plans. They've aged out of the mental health system, and now those are the kids that kind of drop off the radar if there's not somebody to help them transition through that process with finding work or schooling. And so this is really with the intention of a rural demonstration project. We know out in rural areas we don't have the resources, but what can we show to state lawmakers? Something that's effective, that works, that's efficient, and can be a demonstration across all of state of Minnesota and rural areas about what can be. So this is something we're working really hard to gather a lot of data on to show what are the strengths of this program, what works, what can be tweaked. So this has a couple more years of this project, and we're hoping then to take it back to the legislature, because that's what they asked us to do, is to get a grant, get some data, and bring it back and show it. So that'll be Sarah's one of her takeaways for the next couple of years. So, and then I wanted to actually highlight the Aaliyah project. I was hoping Paul might be here this morning, because I wrote a grant for this project based on Paul Bukovich bringing to me one of his concerns. And then I had somebody from Yellow Medicine, literally probably within a couple weeks of Paul coming to me, to talk about trying to make change with staff, trying to respond differently, and how do we do that? Not just a one and done training to take it back to the office. And this has been a year-long project, and actually next week is one of our last meetings. We close up in December. But it's a project, it's a company out of the cities, but it's a woman who started this, who worked in children's mental health for a lot of years, and just kind of a new way together is what they call it. And we have been able to, once a month, well, Diane's been part of that as well, and we come together, and there's one-on-one coaching through Aaliyah to just support, the workforce is different, the families that we serve are different, the circumstances, and how do we try to make change and then bring it to our staff and be effective, be supportive. And so we've had our 5 counties all working together, and I think one of the really nice things is knowing that cross-county lines too, that supervisors know they have an ally maybe across county lines, and they get together. They've done some really amazing work. I know one example that stands out to me is 3 of the social work supervisors were really struggling with some of what DHS was saying they had to do, and it was like this 40-page plan that they had to bring to families. and they researched it together and found out that really it was probably a third of that, which was really mandated, and they created something, brought it to DHS and said, we think we can do it in this amount of time. And sure enough, they could, but they got together, working together, getting together once a month, kind of talking about their challenges and finding solutions. And so I know Paul can talk about that. It's been a really effective way to just collaborate and support one another and make some changes, but also get through it through a year. Like I said, not a one and done training.
Is this a grant you can continue to apply for?
No, I mean, there's different ways, different things, but this was I found a grant through UCare Foundation about making change. And, we just submitted this proposal and they liked it. And
Yeah.
so it's, not a one and done, but a year and done, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, so December will be the 12th month that we've been working on it and just really, I think there's just some really good takeaways. Strength, so, yeah, so it's kind of my highlight for the year with collaborative, but I do want to say, I was telling Sarah, the one thing I've been trying to do with this last message that I bring to the board is the power of prevention. And my first job out of college nearly 30 years ago was in prevention. I worked in public health and I love prevention. I think it really works. It is hard because we don't necessarily see the results in 6 months or a year, but I think right now it's especially important to think about prevention, just the last couple years and just the effect that the world has had on our young people and our families. And knowing we have to respond, there are times we have to respond, but also with prevention, and we need to not forget about that. And I see it in the chemical health coalitions too, when we kind of step back, some of those challenges start creeping up on us, and then all of a sudden they're right there in front of us, and we are responding really heavily on the other end. And I will say, even that journey to independence, when we brought that to the state, and the Senate said, this is really wonderful, it's really great, but we're so used to responding on the other end. And that's what we're so conditioned to do, is to write a check and respond. And so even though I started in prevention, the majority of my career has been on that other end. And really just ask that as commissioners, you think about that with the kids and the families and the schools. And schools are up against as well, as a lot of those kids and families are coming through the front door every day in those schools, and the teachers are having to teach, but they're having to teach social skills and mental health as well. So,
All right, thank you. Does anyone have questions for Rochelle?
I'd just make a comment, Brianna Meyer, who we moved her position here this morning, is the map, is gonna be handling for the county, because Angie was moved on, so.
And just a comment, when you said most kids don't, I think we forget about that. We hear so much about those few who are doing it, we kind of forget about the large number that aren't doing things.
And with the positive community norms messaging, that is one of our focuses, is trying to change that perception with kids, because kids think that most of their peers are drinking or smoking because that's what they see. So part of our job as preventionists is to really change that perception and to help kids realize what really is real, and that
You have a choice. You have a choice.
Well, Rochelle, thank you for the many years. Paul Bukovich said that when you took this job, it was a little tough, and you brought it back a long ways. So I just want to say thank you.
it's been my pleasure too. Like I said, prevention is really my passion. It really, like Sarah said, we know most kids are doing good things and are healthy. We need to get that message out there. We need to support those good things. So,
Well, thank you very much.
yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Cause I had to schedule, it's hard for me. So now we're gonna have the public hearing.
Yes, so we have the proposed fee schedule for 2023. Primarily, the adjustments on the fee schedule for this year are relatively minor. The one substantive change I did want to bring to your attention, because this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, is an increased fee for the after-the-fact permits, for conditional use permits and building and variance permits. Went up from $946 to $1,496, and that additional penalty for doing the work in advance.
Do you think that'll make any difference?
But, you know, if, we just talked about one this morning. Look how much time Greg has had to put into it.
No, I think
Kept
it's
him from
fine.
doing
I
other
think it could
things.
even be higher. I'd be fine with that. I just don't think it's gonna stop people doing it. Either because of
there-
lack of knowledge or just because they think this is my property and I'm gonna do what I want. There's that.
I think those two things are gonna continue to be an issue, you know.
So that's the
My
only,
career,
that's
people,
the,
people doing work without permits has been a continuous issue.
absolutely, it's ongoing.
Yep.
So the rest of these are,
The rest of them are relatively minor changes.
does anybody have any questions?
How do these align with other counties? Not that we have to be like other counties. I just was curious as to how our fee schedule aligns.
I haven't done an in-depth evaluation of these fees. I know that it's one of the things that departments will take a look at. You know, for example, when we look at the fees for parks, we've talked about that with the over at the Coronas Campground, how we align compared to other campgrounds in the area. I know that's one of the things that Brady takes a look at before we make any sort of adjustments up there. But one of the things that we wanted to address was, for example, the fees for RV and campers with electricity. The cost of electricity has gone up, and we wanted to make sure that we are at most part recouping that cost. Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the 2023 fee schedule as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt to accept the proposed 2023 fee schedule. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public hearing for the PECE recycling $50,000 revolving loan fund request. Hi.
Good morning, Lisa Graffentini from Meeker County EDA. As part of the federal requirements for our revolving loan fund with the county, we have to allow for citizen participation for any activities that we do. So in front of you is a request for $50,000 from our revolving loan fund for Peace Recycling out of Cosmos. That will be structured as a 7-year term. Based on the current prime rate, the interest rate on this would be 4.5%, and this is for working capital for the business. We will take the typical security, corporate guarantees, personal guarantees, UCC financing. We will not take a mortgage though because they lease their building and do not own it, but we will take all the other necessary security for the loan. So with that, is there any questions on the loan?
Guys, you got anything else? Or?
Do they employ quite a few people?
8 individuals.
8.
And they also work too with some of the groups within the county and surrounding us that have disabled workers that are able to kind of come in and work there as well. So they have a lot of collaborations with some of our nonprofit organizations too.
ProWorks collaborates with them, yep.
Thank you.
Steve, Danny, do you have anything?
Well, there it says 8 employees.
They had good, I mean, as far as loans that we normally do, I think they had good collateral to back up
Okay.
what we financed there, so.
Questions? Any other questions?
One other, I'd make a comment quickly, cause we turned down a request for another business that night. I did find out that MMDC had given that Grove City business $80,000 through a program too, so I was kinda glad we didn't proceed with that one.
All right,
You looking for a motion?
I'm assuming.
Okay. I so move to approve a $50,000 revolving loan fund to PECE Recycling, Inc. as recommended by the Meeker County Economic Development Board for a term of 7 years at a rate of prime minus 2.5 points and structured to include corporate guarantees, personal guarantees, UCC filing behind other lenders and title to a skid steer and semi-valued over the loan amount.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen, do I hear a second?
I will second that,
Second
Madam
by
Chair.
Commissioner Johnson, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. And just on a future note, what I might do for these public hearings in the future is just do one a year that covers the fact that we do loans to kind of save some time for the businesses. Because otherwise it does end up being a two-step process and takes a lot longer, and we want to be a friendly lender for businesses. So just
Sure.
kind of a future note, I might make a change to how we structure the public hearings going forward.
Very good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Letson, resolution approving the 2023 annual budget and property tax levy.
Yes. So our proposed 2023 budget includes just shy of $49 million of total expenses and over $44 million in total revenue. Of that, included in that also is just over $9 million in transfers between our different funds. The general fund is where most of our operating expenses come out of. That is, or operating governmental expenses come out of. That's $20 million for 2023. Road and Bridge Fund, just over $11 million. Human Services at $9.8 million. Parks at $442,000. Or Regional Library at $1.8 million. Apologize. Regional Library is at $260. Solid Waste is at $1.8 million. County Nurses at $1.5 million. Opioid Settlement, which is a new fund for 2023, is $26,000. Family Services Facility Fund is at $715,000. Our capital projects, which is all one-time expenditures, that is at $7.8 million. And then debt service is at $4.2 million, and that is because we have money coming into the debt service fund through the issuance of the new bond that is then transferred into the capital projects fund for future expenses. So this slide shows the transfers at $9.1 million. We have $5 million being transferred out of the general revenue fund, $1.2 million last year. The bulk of that is going to capital projects, primarily for the facility remodel project. We also have our annual transfers from the general fund into the parks and the public health fund. Rather than levying directly into those funds, we levy into the general revenue fund and then transfer money into those funds. Family Services Building Fund has $179,000 that's being transferred to capital projects for work that's occurring at the Family Services Building. This is HVAC work at that building. And our debt service fund has money coming into it through the issuance of that bond, just under $4 million, and then we're planning to transfer that into the capital projects fund for the facility project. When we look at the use of fund balance, primarily in the general fund is where we have the most discussion about it. And that for this year is planned to be $4.3 million. Of that, $3.8 million is for our facility remodel. And then everything else that's in here is for either operating expenses or kind of operating capital expenses. So like HVAC improvements, squad replacements, 911 software upgrade. Then AIS prevention. AIS prevention is a separate funding source from the state that has to be used for AIS prevention services. And there's been a pot of money that's grown over time that advisory committee has been working to spend down over the past couple of years. We also have in here $134,000 for new staffing in the sheriff's office. This covers a portion of the school resource officer position and the new corrections officer position. When you pull out the the facility remodel project in the AIS, what we're spending on kind of our year-to-year expenses out of the general revenue fund is $415,000. When we look at our significant expenditures, the big things that are kind of different for next year, we have a replacement of the roof here at this building in the LEC, just shy of $1 million. HVAC improvements here at the courthouse, and this is for replacement of the chiller that serves the 5th level, which is not being impacted by the facility remodel project. Park improvements, which is kind of our annual capital improvements that occur at the park. Pavement maintenance, this is for our roads across the county. We have an increase in $700,000 there. Vehicle replacements, this is the replacement of the grader and one other vehicle for public works. Our roadway projects is our annual you know, part of our annual road plan. Sheriff's Office, we have multiple squads that are being replaced next year. 6 of them are included in the budget. 4 is our annual replacement schedule. Plus in 2021, we weren't able to get any, so we have 2 coming out of this year, and then we'll pursue the other 2 the following year. Radio and paging modernization. This is a project that's going to come out of our American Rescue Plan dollars. This is actually 2 separate projects. One is a modernization of our radio repeater system, and then our paging modernization brings some equipment into the schools to allow for the radios to work in there. Armor radio replacement, we've purchased through state funding. Armor radios, all the agencies across the state have. They're at the point of needing replacement, so we have them on our replacement schedule. Case management software for our social services department. This allows us to modernize and streamline the way that documents are being stored, and allows for staff to access that information easier, and it makes the process to collect those documents, store them, and retrieve them later a lot smoother of a process. And then lastly, last year, as you recall, we had an update to our contract with Endurance Environmental for our operating of the transfer station. Previously, Endurance took in all the revenue, and then they paid out all the expenditures, and we received a portion of that. Going forward now, we are taking in the revenue and paying them a higher operating fee in order to manage the site there. So that's where the additional cost comes from. Of course, one of the major concerns that we always have when we look at our budget is how does our personnel costs compare over previous years. We have this broken out by general category, which is the type of work that's occurring: general government, public safety, highway, streets, social services, public health, and so on. What we see is when you look at general government, for example, in 2021, the cost of salary and benefits was 67.5% of total expenses. In 2023, it's 63.5%. Across the board, 21, 22, about 50% of our total expenses was salary and benefits. 23, that drops down to 49.7%, and the reason for that is because we have some significant one-time expenses included in the budget this year. For example, if you look, our capital projects in 2021 was at $1 million. This year it's at $7.8 million. When we look at the adjustments that are included in the budget for personnel, we do have a cost of living adjustment included in there. We're still negotiating with our unions. We are having the second round of discussions with each of the unions wrapping up today. At that point, we'll then be ready to come back and have approval of the non-union cost of living adjustment at our next meeting. We did have some adjustments to our health insurance costs as well. The Prime Health Pool, on average, had a reduction of 5% of the premiums. However, PEEP, which is our law enforcement group, had an increase of 18.7%. We do have 7 new positions included in the budget as well, which is a patrol deputy, school resource officer, corrections officer, heavy equipment operator, supervisor in social services, paralegal in the attorney's office, and a nurse case manager in public health. Those positions that were not previously approved, which were the paralegal and nurse case manager, the other 5, we're going to come forward at the next meeting and have you approve those, approve us to be able to go forward and recruit for those positions, as well as the reclassifications of 4 different positions that were reviewed as part of this process, and the market adjustments. When we look at the American Rescue Plan, which is of course where we received some significant dollars in 2021, and we've been working to spend that money down. We have $3.2 million of total expenses, the bulk of that going towards the facility remodel project, but also some other capital expenses that are in there. That repeater and paging project is included with the ARP, a portion of the roof replacement project, the paralegal in the attorney's office is funded out of here for until we spend all this $92,000, and then we have the second round of our COVID premium payments and hiring incentives. As we look at how this impacts the levy for 2023, we have a total levy of $16,220,310, which equates to a 3% increase over 2022. And that concludes the summary of the budget, and available for any questions that you might have.
Questions?
also did want to note that in the resolution that was included in your packet, there was one minor typo. It listed the road and bridge fund as a total budget of $11,208,337. It's actually $377. So it's a $40 difference there. That just a typo. It's been corrected in the one that will actually be signed and approved.
So I get confused every time we talk about this. So if we use out of our general revenue fund, what are we predicting to have left?
Yeah. So if we look at that, as you recall, the Office of the State Auditor recommends that we have between 35 and 50% of our total revenues as fund balance in our general revenue fund. We've been well above that over the years, and as we've discussed about how do we want to fund the facility remodel project, the main discussion then has become, do we want to spend down that fund balance to what level? What we had discussed and what we decided is we wanted to get it down to the 50% level, and then we're using some of the other fund balance to minimize our levy adjustments. By going to the $415,000 of total expenditures, takes us down to, I believe, like 47.5% of comparing to 2020's revenues, which is our most recent audited revenues at the point. 2021 revenues, apologize. So overall, we're still in a good position.
We're 12.5% over minimum.
Yes.
I just get concerned. I mean, a roof was $1 million. I don't know what our revenue source is when we have those emergencies, if we don't have it in reserve.
Well, we also have one thing to keep on the radar is the landfill that we'll be working on. I think our direction has been to move that, and that would come into general revenue, correct?
Correct.
I guess a bigger
The fund
question will
balance, which would
be-
definitely put us,
we start talking about how much we're gonna bond.
Mhm.
That discussion will be further down the line.
Yeah, what we wanted to do is get a better sense of what the overall project cost is looking like as we get through the current design development portion of the project. When we have that piece nailed down, there is an updated construction estimate that comes through. And at that point is when I believe is the right time to, again, have another discussion about how exactly are we gonna pay for the project? What's the breakdown gonna be between debt and fund balance, so.
Any other questions? If not, I'm looking for somebody to approve a resolution for a 3% levy.
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the 2023 tax levy at $16,220,210, 3%. Which I should say, let me rephrase that, which is a 3% increase over 2022.
So you're looking to approve the resolution?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
And that.
I'll second that.
Jonah, call the roll. Cory?
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
Yes.
Okay.
Next, we have a resolution establishing salary per diem payments and expense allowance for county commissioners.
So, the current salary for county commissioners is $27,027 per year. The per diem is $70. Included in the packet was a memo which outlines what we've, or what you have done over the past 10 years. And what you'll note is that over that time period, commissioner salaries have increased by 21% when you compare that to our non-contract employee salaries, our non-union employees, which have gone up by 26%. Additionally, per diems have not increased over that time period. The resolution also covers expense reimbursements. Primarily what we're talking about here is mileage. We've always followed the IRS mileage rate, which currently is at 62.5 cents per mile. The language in the resolution states that we would continue to follow the IRS rate. So the really two items for discussion today are the commissioner salary and the per diem rate for 2023. Included on the screen is a table that gives you a few different options, shows you what the total dollar amount would be at 1.5%, 2%, 2.5%, and 3% increases. But it really is up to you to decide what you would like to do.
Has the percent change of salary in the past been based somewhat on COLA percents? Or where have those numbers generally come from?
At times.
I think normally it's kind of gone by what the non-union or employees have gotten, I think, hasn't it?
As far as a COLA or as far as a wage?
As far as the COLA.
Well,
COLA,
we,
okay.
I mean, call it COLA, call it wage, I mean, at the end
I
of the
mean,
day.
it's not COLA, but I think we've kind of followed.
It
Followed.
Have we
you
not?
have in the past, but you have also not in the past, which is why it has
We've done
lagged
nothing,
behind.
we've done nothing in the past.
That is correct.
That's correct.
In 2020, you did an increase that was the same as the non-union COLA. 2018, you did one that's the same, and in 2015. Otherwise, it's been different each year.
Myself, I would myself, I feel 2%, because that's also what we propose to our other elected officials.
Ah, yes.
You know, I mean, so it keeps in step with that. That still isn't gonna stay in step with non-union salary contract, but at least if we don't move it at all, we're gonna end up getting farther and farther behind, and then somebody's gonna move it a lot someday. I like that idea.
Well, and also the fact that we're not always going to be here, and you want good people on this board, you want.
Well, if they're doing it for the money, they're in the wrong business,
No,
I'll tell you
but-
that
They
right
haven't
now.
researched it.
But,
Track your hours for a week.
Didn't look
No,
like it.
but I mean, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
2%.
I'm never comfortable with this, ever,
no,
ever.
I am
Well,
not.
it's not.
I don't think it should be our decision even. I don't like it. I haven't since the start, so.
But I don't think Meeker is high compared to other counties around, I mean, well,
No.
counties our size, not around us, cause most of them ain't our size.
Well,
And 2%, I think is like $2,600 total or something, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's about a $540 increase for each of you. So yes,
27.
about $2,700, $2,600.
I do not wanna take more than anybody else is getting.
No.
Sure,
That's what I mean, that would keep us below our 10-year average, and
like a 1.5 would be fine
And
with
that-
me.
closest would match
Nothing would be fine. with me,
proposed
too.
elected officials.
If you average it out from the time that we newbies started here, it has been a 1.5. 2021, we did nothing. Last year was 3. Cut that in half, 1.5, 1.5.
Yeah,
I'd say either 1.5 or 2, whatever the rest would consider appropriate.
It's never easy, it's
No,
just
no,
not.
it isn't.
I think it's
it's the uncomfortable part of it.
it's uncomfortable and
Have we completed negotiations with the other elected persons?
No.
Have we completed all negotiations with none? Everything is still in the
We've
talking.
completed absolutely no negotiations.
that's why I don't know why
Well,
we're talking about this
Because we
today.
need to establish this before the beginning of the year, and one of the commissioners is not gonna be here at the next meeting. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Well, I do not wanna take a larger increase than the other 3 elected
I would also say
officials.
that of the items that are on here, based on what we've discussed in the past as far as COLA, you will not have a larger increase than anyone.
I mean, 1.5 seems fair to me. I don't think anybody's gonna get less than that. You guys are on personnel, so.
Are you looking for a motion? Or is this a resolution?
It
It's a
is
resolution, but we have to have one.
But you have to identify, you need to know what to fill in as far as the salary and the per diem.
Well, per diem, nobody,
That's $70, it's fine.
I mean,
We're not asking to change that,
We're
and
not.
then the mileage is set by the,
Mileage is set by
By
IRS.
by the state?
so look for a motion from someone.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve a resolution establishing the salary at 2% per diem payments at $70 and expense allowances and mileage to stay at the federal rate.
Second, anybody?
Did we, agree to 1.5 or 2%?
Wait, he's making a
I'm
motion
making
for
a
2%.
Oh,
If
well,
he doesn't get a second, it will die for lack of a second, so,
Doesn't matter to me.
we're looking for a second. Do I hear a second?
I will second it, so we can have discussion.
Okay, go ahead and discuss. Second by Commissioner Johnson.
So at 2%, it's about 500, is that what we talked about? Per
$540,
person,
yes.
over the span of the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? So the motion is to pass a we're gonna have to do a roll call on this and then go back if it doesn't pass.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
No.
Commissioner Bredesen,
No,
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
No. Do I hear another motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion for a resolution to have our per diem remain the same at 70, our mileage according to the state, and our salary
IRS.
increase change at 1.5%.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Schmidt. Discussion. Corey, would you want to do the roll?
Happy to. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
No.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
No. Resolution passes. The commissioners will have a 1.5 increase. The per diem will stay the same and the mileage will be established by the IRS. Moving right along here. Administrators report.
I only have two things today, and that is that first off, hopefully some,
I had a question. A resolution, is it a simple majority vote?
yes.
So 3
Yep, it passed.
members?
Yep.
It doesn't require 4 of the 5?
No,
There's-
Resolution.
It doesn't, some do.
there are certain actions
There's one we
that,
did that needed a, so
Yep.
what was that
there are
for?
certain
That was
actions
for that land.
Okay,
That had to have super.
Not to bring that up again, Julie, but
Yeah.
that was for that property.
there are certain actions required by statute that require us.
okay, but this one
This is-
falls under the
it's a
simple majority?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hopefully some good news. Looking at kind of our schedule, hoping to cancel our work session in December, unless anyone has any concerns about that. It'll be on December 27th, 2 days after Christmas. So,
I remember the day we never had work sessions. Do you remember those days, Corey? How we hardly get enough days in a month.
so I'm not hearing any objections. I'm also not hearing any cheering with it, but that's okay.
I would like to make a motion, we don't do a work session in December, but if you're insisting we have one,
No,
then.
I'm insisting that we don't have it.
I think.
Oh, you're saying we,
Yeah,
I say we
they're
cancel
saying
it.
to cancel it.
oh,
Yeah, that's
cancel.
what
I thought you were making it. Yes, I'm all for
Yeah,
that.
that's why I was
See, I'm
confused why I
really,
wasn't
I'm
getting
really
some.
confused.
Comes the
today.
cheers.
I thought you said,
I was
never
expecting
mind.
jubilation,
Do
but
we
that's
hear,
okay.
do we need a motion for that, or are we just canceling?
I'm just not gonna
I make a
put together
motion,
an
we
agenda.
have a work session on the no.
Change.
For lack of a second.
The first meeting in January, I am planning to have materials ready for you to do your annual evaluation of me. So I will be sending out a questionnaire, hopefully tomorrow for you to fill out, same thing as last year. But also been working on, some material to send out to department heads based on feedback that I received last year that you wanted some feedback from department heads.
And
So you'll
just,
get all
how
of
many
that.
department heads will you send to?
The plan was to send it to all of them,
Okay,
Which is,
which
all
is
the
like
department heads.
15 of them.
are there about 15?
Yep. And the plan would be that we'll compile that information and send it to you so you have an opportunity.
And then
to
we'll do
review
a
it
closed
prior.
session to do your,
Yep, then we'll do a closed session at the first meeting in January. So,
Okay.
I'll be sending that out hopefully tomorrow. And that concludes my report.
committee update. How are we doing for time, Commissioner Schmidt?
Oh, I got 15 minutes or
Do you
so.
wanna go first?
Yeah, I'll do that. I think. Biggest thing probably, was we were at AMC here the last few days. Prior to that, union negotiations, that's a continuing topic. MMDC, we did approve some community, enhancement grants, basically to like fire and rescues for some equipment up to $3,000. MMDC puts out about $30,000 a year, and different entities can apply for funds there to help offset some dollars there. That's been a kind of a perpetual grant that's been out there. I think there's right around 30,000 was approved in July, so I would say about half of that is gone. So there's like $15,000 to $20,000 left in that kitty for eligible entities to apply, and that can be found on MMDC's website. Other than that, I gotta turn the page here. And then we had truth and taxation meeting the other night. That was pretty uneventful. And then the AMC, was a good conference, I think. Paul and Andrew McKell were there. Andrew and McKell did a presentation one day on the things that we have done for labor and addressing labor issues. And actually it was, me and Paul said, and I thought it was very well done, but also it was good to sit in there, more so for me, to see all the little things we did over the course of 6-8 months. You think there's a little item here and a little item there, but when they put it together in a PowerPoint and present it out, and we really have done a lot of things to make the workplace better. So it was good to see kind of that time lapse, if you will, presentation of the
Maybe,
things we put together.
not to interrupt you, do you have that? Could you present it here for everyone to see?
Not today.
Be happy to do
I
it.
know that.
I will be happy to do it on December 27th.
I knew that was coming.
Maybe it might be interesting for everyone to see that,
Yeah. it would.
Be happy to do that.
It was good. It was-
including staff.
Be happy to.
So, other than that, I sit on public safety down there. We did have our top platform agenda put through our topics, policy committee, our policies that we're gonna push to the legislature. We've had some pretty interesting meetings, overall, I think it was a good conference. I think there's a lot of information. It was, definitely more well attended this year than last year. There was more people in the room, throughout the whole, 4 days or 3 days for sure. So, man, I can't talk this morning. MRC, we did meet with Capitol Hill Associates, who is their new consultant to replace Dan Larson, to their lobbyists that they're gonna hire to work for us for the next year to work at the Capitol on their platform amendments. And one of the lead lobbyists there is Britta Torkelson. That's Representative Paul Torkelson's daughter, and also Rob Vanasek, and his dad was in the legislature some 20 years ago from New Prague. I knew him as a kid growing up, and so they got a couple of really good team. 2 of the 4 that I know a little bit about are pretty high powered, so I think MRC's biggest challenge is gonna be, making sure they've got their ducks in a row to give them topics to work on that are worthwhile, and they're gonna have to produce something. So I'm leaning towards sticking around with MRC another year. I did have a couple commissioners come up to me that are not in MRC right now. There's 34 counties in MRC. There's been some counties that were sitting on the sidelines kind of waiting to see what this change was, and it sounds like they're gonna come back in, so, or come in, they've never been in, some of them, but, so that was good, so, and that's about all I've got.
You do have one more thing from MCR. Or
MRC.
they did remove one item that was very important.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Come on.
The death penalty was in their platform,
Oh,
which I didn't even know was in there, and I thought we lived in it. But,
It's funny.
so that was that was productive.
Well, that's productive then.
And there was debate around that removal too.
Yeah, we removed 3 items, but that was, I was shocked when I seen it in there, I was like,
gracious.
holy smokes. But anyway, so that's what I mean, we're gonna have to narrow our focus as rural counties, and they're gonna have to come with productive, topics for this group to work on, or I think we're gonna have issues with the agreement between them. This is a good group, and I don't think they'll, wanna deal with the, insignificant things that aren't move anything in at the Capitol. That's all I got.
Danny?
Yeah, all I had was, some negotiations, and I think that's it. Otherwise, I've been skunked, so.
Had an MCL meeting on the 30th of November. You know, a lot of times we wonder about some of these meetings and their worth, but, they had applications for grants and they had, money to spend. Yet they vetted those very well, and, they're not spending what they had to spend. And I thought that was really good to see, because so many places will do that use or lose and find ways to make things happen. But they did a very good job and did not award all of the grant requests. Following day, I was at Prime West. Very good mood there for everyone, because they are so looking forward to moving on in January and beginning to with these other counties that have come in. The total assets, liabilities and equity, I should say, they're sitting at 146 million, almost 147 million dollars. And they're well over their statutory required net worth of 106 million, so very good shape there. On Friday then, I was at a One Watershed meeting, and once again, I will thank Danny and Steve for getting me on that.
You're welcome.
We're still in the planning stages of that, but I will say this, I'm learning an awful lot, because this thing is really, it's big. These things are big, they're huge. And sometimes you just sit and listen. Then for AMC, Steve alluded to the presentation that Andrew and McKell made. We all attended several sessions over the course of the 2 days. And I had made this comment to Andrew and McKell. Of all the sessions I was in, everybody in the room that attended the one presented by McKell and Andrew was focused on McKell and Andrew. And they were, because not a lot of times you got people on their phones, you got them on their computers and stuff. They drew excellent questions, and they had a well-done presentation. When they handed off from one speaking to the other, it was very smooth and very good, and it was the best presentation and I'm not saying that to be.
Did you practice, Andrew?
In front of the beer.
We prepared.
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 Well, good job.
But
Thank
yeah, they had,
It was
Done.
good. That was a good one.
they had meaningful questions and many questions coming, and so
Yep.
that always indicates a good presentation.
And it's a relevant topic too. I mean, everybody's struggling, so I mean, it was timely.
And then on Tuesday morning, I saw probably one of the most dynamic speakers that I've seen in many years, Gordon Graham. I have not been able to download that brochure he talked about either. I've been trying and trying.
Is he related to Billy?
Um,
He was pretty
He was
dynamic.
Yeah, I think so.
He's actually,
Really?
no, I don't think so.
You didn't ask.
he's actually a California cop.
Oh, he probably isn't then related to Billy.
No.
But I mean, he talked about risk, and, you know, most people know the risk in the room. Why haven't we done something about it? You know, instead you just know it's there, and you wait for it to run you over, and then you go,
Right.
"You should have done something about it." But I just thought his message was so good, delivered so well, relevant to today, and he is 71, 72 years old, born in 50.
It's a good age.
He's
72.
almost as old as,
What?
Easy.
he said he's almost as old as.
Easy.
That's what I said. But, no, I think you two would agree with me. That was just a fantastic.
Yeah, that was probably the best speaker I've seen at AMC.
That was
Over
70 minutes that
course
flew
of
by.
a few years.
I mean,
Yeah.
He talked for 70 minutes. It was just over. I mean, it was so
Cool.
good. So, but
Anything else,
that's it.
Julie?
Okay. All right. Oh, I'm ready. Our last reports were given on the 15th of November, so since then, that Tuesday, November 15th, Danny and I attended the U of M Extension meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Danny.
Meeting dates for 2023
Okay.
were approved. They're going to be doing interviews for the
Oh,
crops
Part of that,
position.
gotcha.
Those were to begin soon. We were encouraged to spread the word that opportunities for membership to the University of Minnesota Committee are available. So we need to see if we can find some more members. The committee did the annual personnel reviews for the 2 extension educators and the regional director, so we all gathered and took care of that, completed the forms. Danny, anything else you can think of?
We're still working on the crop insurance, the crop
Position?
position, yep.
Very good. Then the next day, I had the local public health meeting. We welcomed a new committee member, Miranda Goen. We heard a presentation about child car seat safety program, which is a popular and very good thing here in Meeker. We were updated on the staffing and strategic planning and coordinating with social services, public health, social services, now that we're going to be doing a shuffling of the deck over there at social services. We got that taken care of. And then today we approved the contract with Dr. Whitney Rentz. She's our local public health medical representative, and she will be chairing our local public health committee. And I'd like to thank Diana. Diane was here earlier today, and her colleagues at Public Health, because every meeting is so well organized, and she has a sheet that is easy to comprehend. It lists, receipts, disbursements, everything is always well organized. The meetings clip right along, and so thanks to Diane and her colleagues for making that a wonderful committee to serve on. Then on Wednesday, the 16th, that afternoon, Paul and I had our aquatic invasive species meeting. It was here in the boardroom. Several members were absent, so no real official discussions were addressed. The budget and grant applications were looked over. Dates for upcoming meetings were discussed. Paul, anything else?
No.
Okay. Then on Thursday, the 17th, I went to Wilmer for the Pioneer Land Library meeting. The biggest issue there was that it was going to be a 49% jump in insurance costs with the people. So they decided to get rid of that. And the only other company that gave Pioneer Land Library a bid was Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that was still a 39% jump. A committee had been formulated to address this large issue, and 3 choices were created for employees, and it was decided to go with Blue Cross. Several head librarian vacancies are currently open, and interviews are to be conducted soon. And that's all I have.
I have been out of it.
Flipping burgers?
Not that I haven't been busy. Some hospital, I think we talked about that before. Just in some conversations also, this was a week or so ago, there's been some staff out. There's been a lot of sickness floating around. A lot of the flu, so a lot of things happening, needing beds, etc. I had a shelter meeting, we did the budget. Julie, I've only got one more of them meetings, Julie, and then you'll be lucky enough to be on the board.
That has yet to be negotiated.
And I think we did staff increases, didn't we? Otherwise, I've been busy with other things. That's all. Anything else? If not, I think we can adjourn here.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, tomorrow, we're meeting at 9, right?
9.
Maybe 8:30, we could have a little chat about, or even 15 minutes.